On today's episode of Axe Hacks, I'm going to be installing this EMG 5766 set into this gorgeous Mayones Regius 7. So funny enough, this will actually be the second time that this exact pickup set has been installed into this guitar. The guitar belongs to my friend Chris Johnson that was in my last video, and essentially what happened is he had these installed. I got a great deal on a bare knuckle cold sweat painkiller set, so we went ahead and swapped them out, installed those. He actually prefers the EMGs for the style that he uses his 7-string for, so I'm going to do him a favor and go ahead and reinstall these for him today. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is remove the switch and the potentiometers from the body so they're easier to access when we flip the guitar over. Okay, now that the switch is free, let's go ahead and pull these knobs off. Okay, this one came off pretty easily. This one's being a little more stubborn, so I'll show you a trick that I use to get off stubborn potentiometer knobs. That trick is dental floss. So what I'm going to do is double it up so that it makes it a little bit stronger. Get it wrapped around both fingers and work it from one side of the knob to the other until it feels like popping off. There we go. I like the dental floss method because it doesn't pose any threat to damaging the top, especially on an incredibly nice guitar like the Regius we're working on right now. There are typically going to be two sizes of nuts holding the pots on, depending on if they are an import size of potentiometer or a domestic or CTS size. The larger of the two, being the CTS, you can usually get a 13mm on there. The smaller, which is actually going to be the EMG size pots that we use later, are a 7/16, or sometimes an 11mm will also fit. So the reason why we removed the nuts and screws securing these before flipping in the guitar over and opening it up is so that we can now pull these a little bit closer up and have better access to desoldering them. So I'm going to go ahead and start desoldering any of the wires that I see coming off of the pickups themselves. Okay, great. Now I've got the two pickup wires completely free. Let's flip the guitar back over and pull those out. Sometimes just loosening the strings at the headstock is enough to slip the pickups out from underneath. Okay, so now that I have the bare knuckle out and I can compare its dimensions to the EMG, I'm realizing how much deeper the EMG is than the bare knuckle, and especially the cold sweat. So I am going to go ahead and undo the locking tuners from the headstock to release these strings. Okay, now with the strings out of the way, let's go ahead and route our new pickup wiring harnesses. And now we'll get our pickups plugged in. So you want to pay close attention to the end terminal here. You can see one side is going to have a little arrow on it and the other is not. You want to make sure that you can see the arrow when the pickup is plugged in. So right now the arrow is facing the camera. Let's go ahead and plug this guy in. and orient this how it's going to sit in the guitar. So it looks like the cable is actually going to do a U-turn once we get it placed down into the cavity. So we want to make sure that's going to lay down there without any issues. And this one does not need to make a U-turn, so we can just lay it down into the route. Now, normally, what I like to use to give some tension behind the pickups to make sure that they're going to be adjustable height is just a couple pieces of stacked up packing foam with a little bit of double-sided sticky tape on the back. So now that we have these sitting and the cable's routed how we want, I'm just going to place this on the back and ease that down into the cavity. Okay, so now we're really going to get into the wiring. The first thing I'm going to do is unsolder all of the components that we're not going to need for the EMGs, like the 500K pots that we have here. Okay, now I've taken the time to pre-strip a piece of 22 gauge stranded wire, and what I'm going to do is what I call lace the switch. I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of solder to this. There we go. So now you can see we just ran the bare stranded wire through these contacts that it instructs us to do in the EMG install guide. Let's go ahead and take a break from soldering and move over to some of the easy terminal connections that EMG provides for us. Okay, so first thing I want to get out of the way is plugging in the actual pickups. What we're plugging them into is this guy. So this is a new thing that EMG recently started doing. It is called the pickup bus. What we're going to do is find our two bridge pickup cables. So essentially, since EMG pickups have a preamp built into each individual pickup, what we have is a power cable, which is red, for the preamp, and audio. So what we need to do, let's run the audio cable first, and I'm just going to run that into this black, make sure you can see it here, into the black row of the bus connector, and it goes into the far left of the black port. We're going to grab the neck pickup. And another thing to pay attention to is the arrows that I was mentioning earlier on the pickup cables. Sort of the same deal. These have arrows as well. Make sure they're facing up. And we're going to run this right next to the bridge pickup. Okay, so we're ready to start making our final connections. Let's go ahead and run the rest of the cabling for the potentiometers, the volume and tone. So we have our output cable, which was the final black cable that we plugged into the pickup bus here. It's actually going to be the one coming out of this far right side. We're going to run that into one of the inputs of the volume pot. And what's cool about the way that EMG has set this up is you can basically daisy chain these pots. So we're going to go into the far left side, out of the middle, into the far left terminal of the tone potentiometer, and we're going to come out of that straight into our output jack right here. And our pots are done being wired. Very, very cool. Now that that's done, let's finish up with our soldering and get our switch taken care of. Okay, so one thing that's actually really cool about the way that the EMG active system is set up is that you don't need to run a bridge ground wire, which we have here, or a shielding ground, which is what is currently tethering our switch. So I'm going to desolder that so that we can make room for the one soldered ground wire that we do need, which is coming off of our bus. And if we look here, we can see this is the one, there we go, this is the one necessary ground wire. So I'm going to get this put back into our helping hands and we'll get those 3 wires soldered up. Okay, we're almost done. We just have one more wire that we need to install from this last terminal into the last green terminal here on the EMG bus. After that, we can start reinstalling everything back through the top of the guitar. So I cut a piece of wire to length and stripped the ends. And I'm going to insert it into this last terminal of the EMG bus. What's really cool about this is all of the stripped wires are just held in place with these little set screws. So I'm just going to put this in and tighten it down. Now you do need a Phillips head with a fairly small tip, and run it over here to this switch to be soldered into place. Okay, so now we have the bridge output. This middle wire is going to be the neck pickup output, and this third wire is the switch output. And black wire over here is of course the ground going to the chassis of the switch, which the chassis is going to be in direct contact with the shielding tape. Okay, one thing we can't forget to do is always use a lock washer under each one of the pots when we're installing them. This is going to make it so that when we're tightening them down from the top, it's not pulling our wires in all sorts of directions we don't want them to be going in. And that is looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and flip the guitar over, holding everything into place as we flip it so it doesn't fall out. Okay, so next thing we want to put on are the washers and nuts for each pot. And now we're going to use our 7/16 socket to get these tightened down. While we're tightening these, we want to make sure to hold the back of the pot in place with our extra hand. Just make sure it's not going to spin around underneath the top on us. Now we'll get the switch fed up through here and tighten down. Okay, now when installing the knobs, since we're working with speed knobs here, we're going to make sure that both pots are all the way up, and I like to angle the 10 on the knobs so that it's facing you in the playing position. So I'm just going to line this up and get it pressed down. So the last thing we're going to need to do before buttoning the guitar back up is to create a sort of protective sleeve for the battery. The last thing we want, especially in a guitar like this, is to, have the guitar get thrown around on stage a little bit and the battery is getting all knocked around in the control cavity and starts leaking. So what we're going to do is get some of this thin packing foam. It usually comes with the packing material most pickups. And what I'm going to do is just cut a little strip, getting kind of crafty here, of the packing foam about the same, let's see that, about the same length of the battery. and wrap the battery. Not super tight, because what we want to do is basically make a little protective sleeve that we can reuse with new batteries once it's time to change these out. So now that we've got that cut to the correct width, I'm going to grab a little bit of electrical tape. And I cut this beforehand because I don't want to be pulling on the roll and put too much tension on the foam. Because what'll happen is when it is time to change the battery out, the foam is going to be so tight around it you'll never get it off. So I'm just going to lay this on here. Again, not too tight because we want to be able to just slide it off and reuse it. There we go. Battery can move in and out, but it's snug enough that it's not just going to slide out when it's in the cavity of the guitar. So now, we'll plug this guy in. Find a good spot for it to hang out here in the cavity. Right there is looking pretty good, nice and snug, not interfering with anything else. And now that that's in, let's get this thing buttoned up. So now that the pickups are installed, the only thing we have left to do is set the pickup height. What I like to do is start with the pickups fairly low, down away from the strings, and hit, whether you're adjusting the bass or the treble side, either hit the two lowest open strings or the two highest open strings, and listen to those resonate as you raise the pickups up. What you're going to be listening for is an increase in bass response, but what you're really listening for is a threshold of where bass stops being added and it kind of all sounds the same as it gets closer to the string. What that threshold is going to represent is where you start to lose string separation and clarity, and where your chords and everything are going to sound a little more muffly and almost sort of oversaturated, which would mean that your pickup is too close. So what we want to do is raise the pickups up, find where they cross over that threshold, and bring them back down to put them right in the sweet spot. Pickup for the bridge is set. Let's go up to the neck. Okay, I would say that that's probably pretty close. So now the other thing that we want to do is make sure that we have a good balance, a good volume balance between the bridge and neck pickups. So what I usually do to test that is essentially do the same thing while switching back and forth. So we'll start with the bridge. So there we go. We got the pickups installed. We got the height set. It sounds amazing. It looks absolutely fantastic with all the blue on gold. If you found the information useful, go ahead and subscribe to the Axe Hacks YouTube channel. Again, my name is Chris. For a great example of what this guitar sounds like with these pickups, I'm going to go ahead and include a link down in the description to the video that Chris posted when he originally had these installed. It's a great video, great example of everything they're capable of. That being said, I'm still going to enjoy it now that they're in.